So is the executive branch holding its fire on immigration reform, or are congressional Democrats just off message? Well, joining us now to help answer that question is Roy Beck, executive director and founder of NumbersUSA. Hi, Roy.
Hi there.
So I looked at this and I said to myself, okay, so the White House is saying one thing, House Democrats are saying something different, which is no surprise to me because of the White House's relationship with the Congress. It's awful. Obama's been very detached in his building relationships with the Congress, even with Democrats. You know, never mind Republicans, we already get that. But even with Democrats, there's been a source of frustration here with the president's lack of communication with them. Is this another example of that?
Well, it looks like I think everybody's trying to make political statements. One thing about it is that I'm not exactly sure how the president could reduce the deportations of non-criminals. It's down to almost nothing. His own DHS ICE chief, or the former acting chief, said just the other day that the chance of a person who is a non-convicted felon in this country being deported is next to zero. So exactly how much less deportations are people asking them to do?
Well, I have a theory. I think that he's trying to make it look like they're giving the legislative process a chance because this is a midterm election year. But we all know good and well that he's going to use that pen whenever he feels as though it's politically advantageous. And I think that perhaps there was not a coordination between the two, and the Democrats jumped ahead a little bit, showing their hand here with this. But I want to bring up something really quick. Speaking of the House, Eric Cantor apparently received a phone call this week. I guess the president decided to use his phone this time and called House Majority Leader Eric Cantor to discuss immigration. And apparently it didn't go so well, according to reports. Cantor issued a statement and he said he's blasting Obama. He called a partisan statement released by the White House, and that the president has no desire to work together in immigration reform, and that, you know, he's been largely ignored what the Republicans have said in the past before. So I asked my table mates here, what do you guys really think that this strategy is going to work?
Absolutely not. I think they're trying to make this an emotional issue this year. Now that Democrats have seen they haven't been able to fix this problem yet, they're going to get as close as they can to the 2014 elections, and they're almost playing emotional chicken on this immigration issue. And I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, the president has said he can use that pen if he wants to. Why hasn't he done it?
He's not going to do it. He's just saying that because Latinos feel really disappointed. They feel betrayed by the president because he promised that this was going to be an issue that he was going to work hard on, and he hasn't. And he's really exhausted his political capital with Obamacare, constantly changing it. So I don't think he's going to do this. I think he just wants to make Latinos feel like they have a little bit of hope that he's working, but he's not going to.
I think it's hard to overstate the amount of ill will that exists between the two sides between the two parties at this point in time, largely based upon President Obama's policies, Obamacare being the best example of this. But even, for example, the New York Times, I'm seeing now it's coming out. Now the Times, clearly not a right-wing blog by any stretch of the imagination, is saying there's been a 43% drop in the number of deportations through courts. You know, that doesn't include border turnaways, obviously. This is through the court process in the last 5 years. This is according to DOJ statistics. They've been pretending to be very hawkish on the border for a while in order to help create this narrative that they will secure the border and mean Republicans won't meet them halfway. The reality is they've been cooking the books. Now we know it. And they just want to use this for demagoguery. They want to go into the election saying, we want to do nice things for immigrants. They don't. They're evil. They all want to just play golf all day.
Isn't a perfectly rational explanation for what we're seeing from the Obama administration the one that our friend S.E. Cupp gave us a few nights ago, which is this, that by keeping this in limbo and really allowing no major action to take place on either side of the immigration reform debate, you are actually winning the political battle. It's how you win. By keeping no solutions, no real solutions viable, everybody wins because it animates the bases. A solution actually takes energy away from the bases, and those in the middle aren't motivated by this vote. So the place where we are is the one where everybody wins politically.
Yeah. Well, Roy, let me ask you, do you think that there's some validity to what Will just said, that, well, if we keep the status quo, it's the president basically playing to some special interest groups, most Americans, immigration's not on the top 5 things of their list of grievances with what's going on now. So do you think that this is the status quo is the way to go politically?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's working out as quite that well for the president. I mean, he's dug himself into this hole by making all these claims about how many deportations, and it's said the chickens have come home to roost. We've known for years that this was a fake. These are fake numbers. But what they've done is they've persuaded an awful lot of the mainstream news media. The New York Times did finally come around and say this, but most of the mainstream news media are still reporting that he's deporting more than anybody in history, and or at least anybody in the recent decades. And so it looks like that a lot of these Hispanic activists are believing his old lies about the deportations. So he really is. He's having to try to figure out how to mollify those people and how to somehow or another convince them he's not really deporting that many without other voters thinking, well, gosh, can we really trust him on anything? I don't think it's working out very well for him. And I'm not even sure that what he's doing right now is that well planned. The religious leaders came in yesterday. The fact that he said, no, I'm not going to do anything more is interesting. It's hopeful to me. But somebody else said something I think we've got to remember is that the year before DACA, which is where he let all the so-called dreamers get work permits, he was saying, I can't do anything. Under the law, I'd like to do something, but I can't do anything more. That seems to be what he's saying now. But I am worried that if he gets pushed to the wall, that maybe later in the summer, he will do something.
We were talking about that this is a good place for both Republicans and Democrats right now. The status quo is good. And Democrats would argue that this is actually a good place for Republicans short term, but long term, electorally, this is really bad because they need to win over Latinos in order to win a presidential election. What do you say to that?
Well, they're not going to win over Latino American voters by taking a position for an amnesty or for doubling legal immigration. Those Latino American voters who want those things are going to think the Democrats were there first and they're the biggest. The only way that Republicans can reach more Latino American voters is by persuading them on things that Republicans believe in, which I would think would be opportunity society, all those kinds of things. Maybe it's on education, on jobs. Republicans need to have some answer on those big issues. But Republicans are not going to win over Latino American voters on immigration, one way or the other.
Will, I have to say, I think I agree with that in the sense that getting a silver medal for being the second ones to jump on the bandwagon for there being a pathway to amnesty. There's no way Republicans will be able to outflank the Democrats on how favorably disposed they are towards making a whole lot of newly minted citizens who will be Democratic voters. But also, I think from Obama's perspective, this allows him to sort of mollify the base a little bit. He makes them a little bit happier. There's no loss here to keep on pounding this drum. Even if it doesn't work for them electorally speaking, he has nothing to lose. Whereas if Republicans take the bait on this, go a little too far down the path, or even allow there to be a pathway set up to amnesty, then I think they actually run some really serious risks in the long term.
The silver medal argument goes like this. It's that if you can remove this issue from the one that is blocking Latinos to potentially evaluating the rest of the Republican platform, you might find some amenable voters. But Michelle, I can see you already nodding.
I agree.
We've done, I'm not agreeing with you yet, because we've done these stories. We did them as recently as last night, that this population is not necessarily one that is wide open to what Republicans have traditionally advocated for.
Right. That's true. But
in large numbers.
I'm Latino. I'm constantly talking to people who are in the Latino community, and they tell me that they won't even look at Republicans until they address this issue. And I think that's the problem. They can't look at Republicans on economic issues because they're so angry about immigration.
But it's unfortunate, though, that they're blaming Republicans for this when when this has been a policy that's gone on for way too long across different
I think Republicans are losing the messaging war.
Yeah, perhaps that's true, and I think that, but they need to stick to the rule of law issue here and not compromise on that aspect of it. And if Latinos don't like it, then I'm sorry, but that's where we stand. We are not them, and there's a reason for that.
If we get to a place where there's amnesty, Republicans are going to lose on every issue. They're going to lose forever and ever. It's not going to matter.
They've done polling. We talked about it last night that the large, majority of Latinos that are coming to this country and immigrants
they're social conservatives. There's an
they don't vote based on that. But anyway, we got to wrap it up. We'll have to save that discussion for another day. Roy, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Nice to be with you.